Cheers. Welcome to Culture Night,
where each week we're doing fancy wine and watch movies that are in some way culturally significant. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sarah. We are back for Season 7, Episode 2 of our World War II season, and I am excited to be back. I'm ready to watch another movie.
Yeah, it's another long one.
That's for sure. So before we jump into the wine, let's just touch on podcast business real quick, and that is to remind you guys that we have kind of switched our format up a little bit. We are trying to self-contain these episodes or these movies into one episode, whereas in seasons past, we would kind of revisit them in the following episode. So now this season, you can find them all smashed together.
More self-contained. We're still working on the format. We'll see if we need to make any other adjustments as we kind of work through this, so bear with us, and we'll keep on keeping on.
Yep. So now, tell us what we're drinking this week.
This week we are drinking the 2020 Silver Reserve Cab Sav from Tobin James.
Had to wear my sweatshirt again. It's been a while.
Let's see. The Silver Reserve, a lot of words here. The Silver Reserve is a different combination of the best vineyards Paso Robles has to offer. You'll find this Cab Sav rich, deep, complex, and absolutely cellar worthy. So a whole lot of words to describe basically nothing. So.
Right. I mean, I will say the smell is all those adjectives you just used. Rich.
Trying to find it. Rich, deep, complex, and absolutely cellar worthy. Yep. So it's talking about it's, I guess, mixed from a bunch of different types or different vineyards in Paso Robles, where the winery is.
Mm-hmm. It has, from my first couple of sniffs, it has a very complex, layered smell.
Peppery.
Mm-hmm. But there's definitely some fruitiness, sweetness to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely like a really strong smell.
Ooh, I get the pepper now.
Can't really tell exactly what I'm smelling.
Yeah, I mean, I know we always say dark fruit, but it feels like that cherry.
A little raisin, if you will.
God, we're back on the raisin thing.
Actually, a little bit tart.
Mm-hmm. But I also kind of feel like this is the taste of a wine that's going to open up. Mm-hmm. The more it sits in this glass, we get through the bottle.
Yeah, kind of a thicker mouthfeel, the viscosity.
It is more viscous than the other ones. It does have a very dark color. Mm-hmm. Very hard to see through. It is not a see-through wine.
So we will see if it opens up. We'll have plenty of time on this movie, and we'll let you know our thoughts as always in the after show.
Can't wait.
So now let's jump into what are we watching tonight?
Tonight we are watching Patton from 1970. It is rated PG.
And let's hop back into our time machine back to 1970. Where the top three movies were Love Story, grossing $106 million, Airport, grossing $100 million, and MASH, grossing $81 million. I almost said $106,000.
It does kind of look that, but I also am having a very hard time reading lately. So,
yeah. And Patton was in fourth with $62 million. So kind of a fairly large drop off from third to fourth of 81.6 down to 62.5. 1
and 2 are really close, and then 20 million less for third and another about 20 million less.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably showing, what's also interesting, MASH and Patton both came out on January 1st. It is a New Year's Day movie.
Yeah. But Love Story didn't come out till December 16th, 1970.
Yeah, wow. I wonder how they calculated the gross there then. Right. If that one came out at the end of the year. Must have, I guess, been from its full run as opposed to how much it grossed in that year. So MASH, to my understanding, I guess that was a TV show up to that point and they finished with the movie or maybe somewhere in there. Okay.
From what I know about MASH is all from Pod Meets World, because Will Friedle, who played Eric Matthews on Boy Meets World, loves MASH, and he talks about it all the time. So I know more about MASH than I have in my life from a show on.
Yeah, I remember seeing it like on the TV Guide all the time growing up, but I never watched it and didn't realize it was more of a comedy until years later.
I would be interested to watch it, but I also remember seeing it in the TV Guide and being like, oh my gosh, the game I play with my friends has a TV show, like the mansion, apartment, shack, house.
A little different.
And I was informed that was incorrect, but I would be interested to watch it someday.
They really should create a movie though, if they haven't already, like on Netflix, called MASH, and be more specifically
like to the show, to the game. Oh, yeah. It'd be so great.
Take place back in like the 90s, 2000 or something.
God, like Pen 15, but better.
Pen 15.
Wait, and at Netflix.
There we go. We got the spinoff. The top three songs released in 1970 were Bridge Over Troubled Waters by Simon and Garfunkel, They Long to Be Close to You by the Carpenters, and American Woman by the Guess Who. So definitely know the first one and the third one. Not sure I know which one Close to You is by the Carpenters, but there's a good chance we've heard it. Just didn't know that's what it's called.
Nope. I went out of my way to listen to it today. And I was like, okay, I'm going to I was pretty sure I knew American Woman, but there's a lot of songs about America and an American in it that I was like, I'll just double check, but I was pretty sure. And I did know that one. I do obviously know Bridge Over Troubled Water, but I was like, okay, I'll try the second one. And I kept skimming through it a little bit more. And I was like, nope. Yes, but have you seen any of the other movies?
I've not seen Love Story or Airport to the best of my knowledge, but I'm interested in watching either of them.
Yes, I have seen Love Story. It has been a very long time. It is my mother's most favorite movie of all time.
Oh yeah.
And so she made me watch it like in high school or early college, and I don't remember her loving it, but it was fine. But I would be interested to watch it again.
Yeah, we can check them out. Have you seen Patton before?
Nope.
Me neither. What do you know about this movie?
Not a thing. It's a real long one. It's probably about General Patton, and it takes place during World War II.
I'm pretty sure the only thing I know about it is I think, you know that 40 inspirational speeches in 2 minutes video?
The one you've made me watch more times than I care to admit.
My college friends and I would watch that all the time. I don't know why. Just late at night, we just put that on. If you haven't checked it out, go to YouTube and search for 40 inspirational speeches in 2 minutes. I believe there's a little clip in there from Patton where he says, cut out their living guts in the middle of a speech. I think that part is clipped in there. So I'm expecting to see a part where he's talking to the troops and giving a very intense speech. That's about it. I
can already imagine your really excited smile if that is in fact true, and it is in this movie.
I'll let you guys know. I'm assuming they're going to say the title quite a bit too.
I would hope so. Yeah, I imagine this one is probably based more on some true events, more than last week. But
yeah, my prediction is this is kind of how Patton came to be, kind of like leading up to it in his life, and kind of showing how he swoops in to save the day with like the World War II invasion, whatever, all that sort of stuff. And it kind of maybe stretches things a little bit to kind of make him seem like some sort of super badass hero, but we'll check it out.
Yes, only time will tell. So with that, we will jump into Patton.
Cheers.
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 Welcome back from Patton.
Patton.
The epic movie, as in it was very long.
So long.
It had an intermission.
It did. And it's also not even the longest one we're going to watch this season. So just tuck in, everybody.
I did like the idea of an intermission. I wish they told us when it was coming so we could have split it over our 2 nights we were watching it at the intermission.
I feel like there's been a handful of times we've had movies with intermissions and we've done it over 2 nights and we always stop like 5 minutes before the intermission starts.
Yep.
So we're like notoriously pretty bad about that.
At least this time I realized that it was going to be like blank screen and then music interlude, and so we were able to skip through like the extra minute and a half of that. But anyways, before we get too far into this, let's start out with our wine rating, starting with the wine scale. Our wine scale is a 0 to 10 rating. However, our wine scale is heavily weighted because all the wines we drink on the show are very good wines. So a low score does not necessarily mean that it is not a good wine, because as I said, all the wines are very good on the show. That being said, I would rate this wine a 5.0.
Oh, did you see it in my eyes? We were close.
Were you 5.1?
No, I was 5.8.
Okay.
The 5 point, I was like, oh my God, we got it again.
I went back and forth from the 5.0 to 5.1 a couple times, but it was fine.
It did open up a little bit more over the second night. And there were very earthier notes that I was picking up more on tonight than I was last night. It's definitely not the best one we've had. What was it? Cab Sav? Yeah, they're not Cab Sav vineyard to me.
Yeah. I feel like
it's better. It's better than any Cab Sav you're going to get in a grocery store under $25.
I feel like generally the rule of thumb on this show is like above 5, like if you see it somewhere, like get it. It's a good wine. If it's below 5, it's like, it's not bad, but like you don't necessarily need to like be like, oh, I saw this at a grocery store or at a restaurant, a bar, like I need to get this. The 5.0 to me fits the whole Cab Sav vibe, where it's like not really had many, if any, bad Cab Savs. They're a fine varietal. I just feel like the ceiling is pretty low.
Yep.
But the floor is also very high.
Exactly. And it's also just hard given the Cabernet Syrah that we were drinking after we finished our first glass of this lovely wine tonight. Not as good. This Cab Sav we're about to drink from Costco, it's fine. It honestly is probably better than whatever we were drinking from Trader Joe's, but it definitely helps to put in perspective of like, okay, I'm giving it a 5 point whatever, but this is like orders of magnitude better than.
And for those of you keeping track at home, realize that this is the 3rd different wine we're having tonight, and we've had a good portion of each of them. So hold on for the rest of the episode.
It's going to be really great. This already smells better than whatever we were drinking.
It just smells, it's not like rubber. This smells like auxiliary gym. it's not the full like just like wooden one. It's kind of like you're like, this is not as good of a gym. It's just.
I mean, I was gonna say it smells like the plastic bag it's kept in.
Yeah, we're talking about the boxed wine,
Kirkland Cab Sav,
which again we generally like. It's just when you're comparing it to like a very good wine, and then you go to this, you're like, man, you reevaluate what your scale is.
All right, we could keep talking about the wine forever, but I think that it is time that we move into the movie rating out of 10.
Yes.
And I really want to make you go first for this one because I just really don't even know.
Okay. I was reevaluating several times throughout this movie. It went up and down dramatically throughout it. I arrived at a 5.8. 5.8. Which is what you gave the wine?
That's what I gave the wine.
Yeah.
I hate to say that I'm being swayed by you, but I am.
Nope. Tell us what it is first. You can't be like our daughter who picks a number and then waits for everyone else.
Our daughter's really bad at the whole like pick a number and then she guesses picks whoever she wants to. Anyways, I was gonna say 6.2, just like I think that's more like I just love the war movies. That it's like I like the idea of where this is going. I liked last week's movie better, which I think did I rate that last 6 point something too? I mean, I think I gave it a 6. I raised it a high bar. I think I gave it a 6 on first impression. That was because I looked stuff up and I was instructed not to look stuff up for this one. But like I would watch the Dirty Dozen more than I would watch this one again. And I think this one just like made me annoyed. Like I felt annoyed through a lot of it.
But I feel like I learned a lot more about this.
I did. But I have so many conflicting things. Like I learned a lot. It was a completely new perspective. It was like so many things conflicted with like I didn't know enough to know how much was accurate. That was making me frustrated. Like
that's what we're going to get to in the after show. Yes. We're, like I said, we're trying to change things up, trying to make it more interesting for ourselves and for you guys. This is kind of like our raw. We've not looked anything up. We don't know like relative ages of anyone, historical accuracy, how it was received, anything beyond just like we watched the movie. I thought the movie itself was fairly enjoyable, especially for how long it is and kind of like it's a fairly dry subject. Quotability, we had that one quote that I do love in the beginning, but like that was mainly it. They kind of otherwise just kind of like rehammered in over and over again, just how he was just very much like a shooting from the hip, like kind of guy and did not really mince words. Rewatchability, I don't know if I would really rewatch much of this. Like it's a long movie. It kind of plods along, but at a fairly decent pace, but it's not like you'd pick up halfway through and be like, I need to see the rest of this. There's an intermission halfway through, which also kind of cuts any momentum you'd have in half. Yeah, so historical significance, that's what I think will dictate how much we change the score in the subtitle segment. But overall, I think it was a pretty good movie. Rewatchability and quotability, I think, is what really kind of limits it for me.
I can already feel like I'm going to bring down my score next time. Because, like, I don't know, like, I'm so torn between like there were parts that were super interesting because it's different than what we have seen in the past, but also like I don't want to watch this scene. Like I felt very frustrated. Like there was so much of it that I didn't enjoy, and it wasn't like the acting was bad or anything specific. It was just like not like the character was unlikable, and he's based on a real person, so like there's not really much you can do about that.
Yeah, this is not the kind of movie where you're like, oh, it's a Tuesday, let's order some Chinese food and watch Patton.
Yeah, no thank you.
Or we're flipping through TBS and Patton's on, and you're like, well, it's only 45 minutes in. Let me go ahead and watch the rest of my day around this, especially with the commercials. It would take like 6 hours.
Oh my God, I cannot imagine watching this on any sort of cable television.
Right. Oh. It would definitely be an all day event there.
For sure.
So let's move into the movie description, which is kind of tough with that, like to make a really good, compelling, thorough one.
You either give it all or you give it nothing.
Right. I'm not going to go too deep in it. Basically tells the journey of General George Patton during World War II, starting with the African front and moving into the conclusion of the war. Just in a lot of his like decisions, both wartime and so any political gaffes that he made during that.
All right, and now the description according to the TV.
Give me some adjectives. Let's do it.
I really hope it has some. I need some laughs. Patton tells the tale of General George S. Patton, famous tank commander of World War II. The film begins with Patton's career in North Africa and progresses through the invasion of Germany and the fall of the Third Reich. Damn, you were really good. There's still, hold on, one more sentence. Side plots also speak of Patton's numerous faults, such as his temper and habits towards insubordination.
I mean,
you
That was
That's
pretty
the
good.
closest
they
I
should
think
hire
we've.
me to write the online movie descriptions. Yeah, I feel like it's hard
I
to
wanted
go
a little bit more spiciness
Yeah.
in that.
I feel like every time I always want them to say the intrepid. I don't know why. Like that's the adjective that I want.
I think you have definitely mentioned intrepid before.
It's kind of like that's in my mind. Half of the movies we've watched, that's how the description starts. But I know they use a lot of different adjectives.
I feel like we've been in a real dry spell of some good ones that I'm like waiting for something.
I don't know if this is the season to break out of that dry spell.
You might be right.
I think we might need to move into some other
like rom-coms or musicals. I think were really spicy.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I think maybe action movies would probably be our best bet.
Yeah.
Some
We'll
sort of
see what
Mission
we'll see what
Impossible,
season 8
Fast and
brings us.
Furious style one. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll have some fun seasons coming up. So now, was the movie what you expected?
Yes, but I will say asterisk no, because your guess of what it was going to be that gave like a little bit more of his backstory. I was like, oh God, I hope he's right. Like what leads him into being like where he got, like that would be super cool. And that was we were in the war. It was 1943 when we started that. I got a little bit excited before the movie started that there would be a little bit more of the backstory, but nope, we just jumped right in and it was literally just about the war.
Yeah, they literally launch into the speech that I mentioned in the pre-show, but it's like to like a nameless audience where it's less about like anything that actually happened and more just kind of like giving it some insight into his psyche is how I read it. That I was hoping for a lot more background on this and kind of leading up to that speech or that segment kind of being the rally like sometime during the war. Instead, it was very much focused on the war itself and that progression. I would love to see one that was more around what kind of made him the way that he is. I think that would probably take like a mini series to really do it justice. Yeah. But I would say like yes and no. Yes, it was the subject and kind of the how it was told the way that I kind of expected, but I expected it to be a little bit more broad and go a little bit more before the war, at least, possibly including some after.
Agreed. All right. How well did it age? Fine.
Yeah, I think my thought like partway through was that it was not aging well in that the way they kind of viewed the relationship between like the general and the soldiers there. And it was I made a note about just the toxic masculinity. I'm sure we'll get to that a lot in the after show, but they did in the kind of the second half. And you saw kind of the effects of that and the way that he just approached it is kind of like basically you are a machine out there to go and like you're not supposed to have feelings, any feelings or weakness, like that kind of stuff. I thought that was not aging well, but it did somewhat age fine in that they kind of tackled some of the ramifications of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like as far as like a filmmaking standpoint, it was fine. That was obviously cringy, but also like we comment on all the time, it was of a certain time. And this was also made later. So it was not like a reflection on the 70s when this movie was made. It was a reflection of the 40s. And like they did.
And like to try to make this question not as like boring as it could be, because I think especially with this season, it's going to be very much a lot of like it took place at World War II. I think kind of what I'm going to try to focus on this season is more like beyond that. Anything that I get latch onto, like the way they kind of view the war, which I thought it was very much taking a very hard stance on, toxic masculinity, essentially, the way we see that today. But like I said, not as much. But I will say I did appreciate there was no AI upscaling in this version that we saw. It was a very high quality 4K version. But I think that this movie, I kind of had a note about this, but I'll talk about it now, this movie was filmed with the expectation that it was not going to be viewed in 4K, like really high detail, or at least that they kind of assumed audiences wouldn't care about things about like when you're showing a bunch of dead soldiers in the field that they're still breathing, or that they're kind of still like you can see their heart beating, or that they're kind of slightly moving,
or that his eyebrows were 100% fake. And that's all I could think about from when the movie started last night until it ended. And then you restarted it to watch the first scene again. And it was actually close and you could really like, and I was like, okay, I was not 100% crazy. That was the only thing I looked up because tonight you were like, oh, don't look anything up. And I was like, the only thing I looked up was is that actor like really like white haired or balding in real life, because he has fake hair on.
It looked like you could tell the receding hairline seemed like it was the bald cap
fake.
going on.
And his eyebrows looked like they were painted on. Like it was, the white was so fake.
Well, at least in the opening scene when they really zoomed in on his face,
You could
see like the grid where they had basically just taken some fake eyebrows and like glued them
He
on.
literally had fake eyebrows glued on his face.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was watching closely enough last night. I was working on some like crochet project when we started last night, that when we watched it last night, or when we watched the beginning again today, I was like, oh, those are, confirmed, not real.
Yeah. There were a couple times where I thought the receding hairline though, seemed like it was very fake, but then they would change and I'd be like, is that just the lighting? Is that actually how he looks? But I think that was very much, they made him try to look that way.
To look like exactly like Patton.
You know, if it wasn't viewed on of nice 4K TV, you probably wouldn't realize it, but it's something that kind of we look at now. So I will say aged well, but also not well.
Yeah. Could it be made today?
Yeah, I would love to see, like I said, like a mini series showing, especially some of the before times leading up to this this war and
and the after effects too, for sure.
Especially nowadays, more removed from the war, kind of how it was viewed. Did this fit the title of the movie in the movie?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
His name is Patton.
It's very hard not to. Does the title fit the movie?
Sure. I mean, it's specifically about him, not the war, not specific battles. It's about him.
Yeah. I think you could make it slightly differently and call it something like general, but I think
we're getting real specific here.
Yeah. I think I can't think of any better titles in the situation.
Does the rating fit the movie? It's rated PG. I would probably bump it 13.
Yeah, PG-13 seems right.
The dead bodies are a little much, and he's a pretty aggressive kind of guy.
There was some colorful language, but nothing too egregious. Yeah. No sex scenes, no anything like that. A lot of smoking. But
yeah, there was that one poster that he ripped off the wall that maybe had boobies in it.
No, I think it just...
Or was it more tasteful?
Yeah, I think it was more tasteful. As in, not a nudie booty, but I think that it was that they were smoking, there was drinking. I think there was enough case where we'd say,
I would say 13.
Maybe towards PG-13, but I wouldn't say R. That'd be too much.
Yeah. Could you make the case it's a Christmas movie? No.
Well, they do mention Christmas. They talk about attacking the day after Christmas.
They talk about the day after Christmas. No, you cannot make it. Stop it. You cannot make it. It's a Christmas movie. No.
The day after Christmas?
Stop it.
All right.
Were there any actors that went on to do bigger things? I have no idea because I didn't recognize a single person.
Not a clue. And I have no idea if I did where it was in their career.
Yeah. Nope. I don't know anything about anybody in this movie.
No Donald Sutherland's in this one.
Right?
What impact do you think the movie had on pop culture?
Nothing, but I've also never heard of this movie before. I'm not super plugged into the World War II thing. I've read a lot of books. The movies, not so much, that I'm sure it had something to do with it. And it's like, it's a play on pop culture already.
Yeah. I think that it's still one of those movies where it's like the stereotypical, like Dirty Dozen, like the classic, like 80s, 90s dad sitting there on TV watching reruns of Dirty Dozen and Patton. I think it also kind of fed some more of the like toxic masculinity type thing of just like some people viewed this and they saw all goodness and no faults in the character of Patton of like, oh, if you're just more of an asshole, if you just double down on it, if you're just really good at it doesn't matter. Everyone else like is questioning your things. There were a lot of things I saw in this movie where it was kind of like, they were kind of like baiting that kind of mentality.
Makes me so angry.
That I think that's more of the impact on pop culture was just reinforcing that thing of like, oh, if you're just really good, you can be an asshole and you can just totally dehumanize people and it's fine, as long as you're killing them Nazis. And there's kind of that mentality that kind of then went way past that aspect of it and was kind of like, oh, if he can be an asshole, I can be an asshole, or I should be. And those kind of viewpoints.
We will get into it into our notes.
Yep. Do you feel culture after watching it? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially having seen, like I said, that clip of his speech, which I thought was later in the movie, but it was very early in the movie. I kind of see the whole aspect of that. And I do really appreciate that leading into it from the very beginning.
It did help tell the story. I mean, it was kind of a lot to take in.
There were no
at
questions
first.
about what he thinks about things and how his mind works.
But then I kept being like, oh yeah. Like I kept referring back to it in my brain, being like, okay, I get where, like, I'm glad they put that first. That
in lieu of like a backstory where you just kind of see like people like authority figures kind of like nurturing that in him, it very much is like, okay, here's Patton, here's exactly how he thinks and how he views everything, and go from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, feeling cultured, I think for sure. I also I did like the viewpoint into the theater beyond just the European theater of World War II. I'd say most of what we've seen about World War II
is
like in America the past, however many years since the war. I'd say like 90% is focused on the European front.
Yeah, and specifically like
9.5%
England,
is on
England, France, Germany, like just those 3 countries.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's like the Pacific that gives you that little bit of like, oh, look, we're seeing something different. Like, wow, this is totally different than what you think of. But then like all of a sudden they're in Africa and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah. I guess I said 90 and 9.5. It's more like 90-10 and 0% of the African front.
Africa never.
And like moving up into Italy, there's
and Italy was a big part of World War II, but I feel like there's not a lot of movies about Italy in World War II, which I feel like is super interesting. Like I've read a lot of books about Italy in World War II, but the movies not so much.
In Italy on a tour where they literally talked about
this. Is like literally a woman was taken from this street right here.
Like after
to Auschwitz and never seen again because she was Jewish.
Italy basically tried to realign the things that they don't teach us in American schools, at least, or if we did, I did not hear any of that. That there's so little taught about anything beyond of the European front beyond just what happens in Germany and France, Belgium, like that area. That hearing things about like Morocco and Algeria, like that part of it, in Egypt, like you don't hear about any of that.
And it definitely brings that more like, oh, this was like World War. It really, and when you bring in like the other places, it's like,
it was not European War II.
Yeah, because it feels like it's mostly Europe, but then you're like, okay, Japan's in there too. But then like America kind of gets pulled in halfway through, but then also, okay, Africa's in there too. And it just is a lot bigger than what is, I think, generally portrayed.
And I think we've talked about this, like for movies, we're talking about the Revolutionary War in America and various other wars. We get a very like narrow scope of what these things are, but I feel like World War II is the one where it's like the most egregious of, it's a world war, but in our minds it's this like small section of it. Oh yeah, Japan was also there, Italy also was there at some point. Like it's so much like hand waved away that it was really cool seeing way more than just that. And I think that is what makes me feel the most cultured about this, and I was not expecting that going in. 100%.
All right, ready to move into your notes?
Yes, I will go first. So my first note was that we jumped right into it, as I said, like with this speech and everything, but also that was a big ass flag behind him.
Right. And I'm a little annoyed that there isn't more context given. Because I was like expecting it to be like, oh, these are like men in boot camp, or like, I wanted to know where he was. And then it was just like, nope, all of a sudden we're in Morocco. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
Who's he talking to?
Or like
is it
Tanzania?
To soldiers, or is it to, any sort of like, I don't know, politicians, so that they're trying to rally up. But another thing about that flag is I also did count there were only 48 stars on it, which would be accurate for the time.
Yes. Good for you. That's why we do this together, because we notice different things.
My next note was that the big quote, the one that I was looking for, was less than 4 minutes in, which I feel like goes way back to the early days of Culture Night, where so many of the big moments,
my God, you're right.
moments of things were in the first like 15,
less than 15 minutes.
Yeah. Like going back to like even the graduate of like, oh, this big moment that you is so like iconic. It's not the one that's like, oh, it's in the last.
I feel like Risky Business was pretty close to the beginning. I'm trying to like remember some of those early movies that it was like, yep, oh, there it is. Okay, we can turn off the rest of the movie. That's the scene.
So some people like must have gone to some of these movies and like checked out, so they put these earlier, or I don't know. But I did. It was interesting. At least to me, that was the iconic scene of this was that speech, and it was right from the beginning. I also noticed that he called it World War II, which I don't know.
I noticed that too. I didn't make a note of it, but I did notice that.
Yes, I want to look back in the after show of at what point did we start calling it World War II? Because I know like for World War I, it was called like the Great War. But how long into the war was it called that?
Yep.
At what point? So for this, like when Patton would have been, it seems like to be from the speech, it was before he started, which means before he was part of the African theater. At what point was it called World War II?
Yeah, I definitely noticed that as well.
My next note was that right across the screen was this big truck that said the WTF truck, and a whole bunch of them. And I'm like, what was the WTF? I don't know. But I do find it really funny that was in there. I don't know how well that would have aged today. They probably would have found some reason to change the.
But I hope that you look that up and figure if it stands for something else besides what we all think it stands for.
Yes. My next note was the toxic masculinity in the hospital. This is not the one where he slapped the soldier, which I think kicks off a lot of the political ramifications. This was the one at the
first
beginning where he's talking. This was like the very toxic masculinity of like, oh, you have any sort of like mental issues of being shelled or you are weak or anything. And he just completely was dismissive of it. That I'm really glad that they circled back on that, because if they did not, then it would have been a really like did not age well kind of moment of just dismissing any sort of like fact that you have any issues, mental, whatnot.
Yeah. And like, what kind of soldier are you going to be if you're like, if this poor kid couldn't stop crying because he's like, I can't take this anymore. Like, is he really going to help you? Or is he going to just get like completely taken down?
You're sitting at the front lines, you're smacking him. Like, is that really going to make anything better or help out anyone on the front lines? It's now another liability there. But I feel like shell shock was a big thing, especially from World War I, that I feel like it would have been a well-known thing at that point to be like, oh, people are having actual long-term mental issues from this. It's not something where you just go through and you just like, oh, let me be tougher and go through it.
I mean, but also like how many things do we like know scientifically are a thing that people are still trying to think are like incorrect?
People are still in disbelief that smoking is bad for you.
Yep. So many things. Oh.
Another one was during his push through into Africa, up into Sicily. Patton was kind of stalled or told to stop and not push through. And he told his, I guess, radio operator to send back a message of message garbled, resubmit. And he's like, that'll take you about half a day, whatever, it'll delay. And he was going to continue pushing through, basically being like, didn't get the message. And so my question to you, I was still trying to think through as well, was what is like the modern equivalent of like message garbled, resubmit, and like taking half a day? Is that like, oh, my battery was dead on my phone, or
out of service?
Yeah. Like, oh, no,
personally, it's like I ran out of data. Sorry.
It must have gone to spam. Like, it's a lot harder now to be like, oh, I didn't get the message.
I thought it was a spam call. I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought this number
it just came through. Like that kind of thing.
Oh, sorry, I was doing something else. I didn't see it.
I didn't get notifications. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. For you, it's you didn't get notifications.
I just saw it. Yeah.
You never get notifications. Sorry, I didn't see your message.
That is true, though. Sometimes Google decides it's just going to hold on to it for a while.
That's why you should
get a notification
that
says, hey, this came through 50 minutes ago. But I did find that interesting to be like, go ahead, say it was garbled, resubmit. That'll take half a day.
I have so many questions. Like, and I don't think I specifically wrote this down, but just like they're in these middle of nowhere Africa countries. Mm-hmm. How can they connect to talk to anybody? Like the whole, that's what blows my mind about this war. It's like, how do you like, oh, we've got 100 miles to march, but like, how do you know what's happening 100 miles from there? And like, how do you connect all the things? I don't know. It's just like, I can't make it make sense in my brain.
You are working on information that is days old.
Yeah.
Like, it's not there's satellites out there transmitting a lot of this stuff like instantly. A lot of it is very much like, oh, we happen to have a runner that went to here and there was a wire to this place that then went to here. Like, you got to hope also that it made it there. You might send someone to send a message, but like, you don't know if they died before they got there.
And then they set up in the field, and like, how do you get messages from the field to anywhere? Like Patton in his like immaculate mansion. Like, I don't know. It arose more questions than answers.
You'd have a lot more planning for sure to make sure that you had all sorts of ways to know when things were going wrong. My next note was, it seemed like the British acting was way over the top, that I want to see if these actors were actually British.
Yes, I thought the same thing too.
But like, they were really
it felt like a caricature
it.
Of British people.
Hey, chop! Like the way, like the accent and also the way they phrase things was over the top. But then also we noticed when they showed a shot of London, the steering wheel was on the American driver's side.
Yes, but it was also Patton's car, so I don't know if it was just like we didn't have we were run out of cars everywhere. We had our own car. We just.
But I want to know, like I know we saw in Dirty Dozen, a lot of it was filmed in the UK, in Europe.
I have so many questions about locations.
Like, was this something that was filmed in America, that was an American actor just putting on a really thick accent, or was that an actual British actor? Which, in case I'm interested, was that like a more like mid-Atlantic accent type thing that was big at the time? But also, like the scene that was in London, like was that just a
side street
goof, or was that an actual like decision to be like, oh, we would have an American car shipped over for them to drive around it?
Yeah, I have so many questions, like especially all of the like not even just like London, but Morocco and Tanzania and all the African countries they went to, like Sicily, like all the like it looked so authentic. Like they did, if it's not real, it's really well done. That's something I'm hoping I will remember that I want to look into that, because there was a lot of stuff that I'm like, I don't know how you fake this stuff.
Right. But also like, I hope they did fake some of that. If they're like actually shelling some of these things or having explosions, like don't actually damage some of these places,
Right.
or especially the historical
Especially
areas.
towards the end.
And they like were running over some of like the walls. I'm like, hope that's not an actual wall that you hope that you put together some sort of like stone wall that you could actually drive a tank over, and not any sort of thing that's actually been there. My next note, this probably doesn't mean as much to you, but as it does to me. But I thought that Patton, the character, the actor, and everything reminded me a lot of Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, which I don't think
literally nothing.
You did watch season 1. I don't think you really saw
You
enough
say
of Tywin.
I watched season 1. I feel like I watched max 2 episodes.
I forced you to get to the end of season 1, and we finished season 1.
I clearly blacked that all out because I don't remember anything besides maybe like I remember the first episode being like, I hate this.
We will watch a best of Tywin Lannister video, and I think you'll agree that there's a lot of similarities there, just in how he carried himself and how he like the confidence and even the look really reminded me of that. My next note was the flags and the bands and the instruments. So like you're fighting this war, it's a lot of logistics of like, oh, we need to get gasoline here, bullets here, people here, all moving us around. And then they're like, they have this town. They're like, oh, we've got like 6,000 American flags.
Yep, thought the same thing.
We've got a whole bunch of instruments. We got people that can play them, and we just had like, were they the actual soldiers or were they mostly just like musicians that were going around, kind of like pepping up everyone? Also, like if push came to shove, would they have picked up a gun? Or like, were they actually trained people to do this? The logistics of doing that, moving that around, and like they conquered the city in Sicily, and the Italian band is then marching through, and the Americans are already there.
Messina.
Mm-hmm.
Messina was the one that the British wanted to get to
Montgomery,
first.
I think was.
And Montgomery wanted to get there first, but Patton had all the whole thing. That's where I really thought about it. I was like, they've got all these flags. And
are you planning to like conquer this city? And you get there and you're like, okay, we finally, broken the wall. Let's go ahead and get our band to push up to the front lines. We're gonna go and push in with them as we march into this city. Like, how much of this, obviously was like Hollywood, but also how much thought and care and logistics was put into how do we get these flags, decorations, and instruments and band and for the Russian army, the dancers. How much emphasis do you put on that as opposed to like the rest of the war and all that? My next note was I did love Patton's love and knowledge and respect for history, and the way he's like walking through and being like, oh, here's where like this army historically fought, and here's where this one did, and here's how they fortified it, and like that viewpoint I thought added a lot.
And that he was constantly like reading and studying. Like I was like, okay, so he's not just like pushing through and like, I'm a man. He had Rommel's book from the Germans, and there was another book that he had like that they like made sure to show that I was like, okay, it's like showing that he's continuously like trying to absorb information and like move forward, which I thought was really cool. But
I feel like a lot of times they show these army people in movies as kind of just being like only like single mind focused on war, fighting, and everything. That I think it did show a lot of depth, showing that his fluency in French and just overall knowledge of things beyond just fighting the war, even though that it was very much his main mission in life was to win battles. I thought it added a lot more depth to his character. And my last note was one we already touched on, which was the dead actors breathing in the field. Yes,
you did notice that. I did not pay as close attention to that.
I always do that in movies. I don't know why. In other ones,
now that you say that, I've heard you say it.
I think basically like they cut out part of the frame. They like freeze that in modern movies so you don't see it moving. But it's something I always look for, especially in older movies, like beyond like the 2000s. Before that, I was looking like, can I see them breathing? Is their heart? Can I see it breathing, like beating through their chest?
Were they really counting on the shitty quality?
Are they actually dead?
My God. All right. So let's move into my notes. So my first note is that's quite a way to start a movie, similar to what you said, just really going right in there with his speech. And then my next note, kind of going back into Dirty Dozen, is that the credits were pushed back again. So it started like we jumped right into his speech, went through the whole thing, and then they started to bring the credits in. So I don't know if that's just like a sign of the transition of starting to move them later in the movies.
And not as action packed, like to kick it off, but the cold open essentially was, I think this was really well done and really impactful. Yeah. I did appreciate it in the way they did it.
My next note is those men in Morocco, like specifically the fact that it's like, we've talked about traveling all over the world. We have traveled a lot. We plan to travel a lot even before the end of this year. Like we are big travelers, but just thinking about like what it was in 1943, these people that are from like middle of nowhere towns in America, and they find themselves in Africa.
Right.
Or just like, I mean, anywhere in Europe, like tourist tourism in the 1940s was not a thing. And just like imagining like trying to write a letter home and being like, we're in Africa. It's real different here. Like that to me is just something that I don't think I really think about too much.
And like you think of like wartime, like, oh, I'm being shipped off to Germany or shipped off to, France, whatever, or London or something. You'd be like, oh yeah, where are your orders? Oh, I'm being shipped off to Morocco.
Or
like,
even
how many of them had to look that up on a map?
Was it Algeria where they had all the like band and the processional like in the very early stage? Because it wasn't, there was a couple of African countries in the beginning. And I'm not sure which one that one's from. And just like what a culture shock, and not in a bad way, but just like this is a very different place than where we are from. And just trying to imagine, like I was really putting myself in the position of like, what were their brains thinking? And there's no YouTube. You can't just, oh, what's it like in Morocco? What's it like in Algeria? What's it like in all these places? Like, you don't know. That's insane.
Also, like the people there, I mean, it's obviously one thing to be in the European front where you're in like fighting in Bastogne and people that were like literally freezing to death there versus people in the Pacific front fighting in like Guam and Hawaii and like really close to that and like all nice weather. But the people that are in like Morocco, not too terribly far from the people in France that are also like, trying to be liberated, like literally just across the Mediterranean Sea there. And it's like, if you fight that first half of the war and you're in like Morocco there, and then you go across there, it's like, it's a different world, I feel like, across there. And be like, oh, now I'm freezing my ass off in Belgium. Yep. Not too terribly far away. Not across the world like I would be if I was in the European front to the Pacific front. Like it's crazy. Just how different the war could have been and felt from just like year to year, month to month. Okay, my next note is, so I forget exactly what it was for, but he said something about giving people $20 fines. Do you remember what his $20 fines were for? It was for something stupid. Uniform. I think it was like if you're not wearing a helmet. Yes. In the mess hall. Do you want to look up what a $20 fine is then? It is. It's $373. I looked it up. Look at me looking up money conversions. I felt really proud of myself because I was like, I don't think he's looking this up. Finally figured out how to Google. You just are like, I never have time. You're already done it by the time I even think about it. This one, just, I don't know. Yeah. Because I was like, $20 fine, like not great, but sure. And then I looked it up and that is the equivalent to $373 today. That'd be quite a chunk. Yeah. I think I would wear my uniform correctly. So, but as we kind of touched on the space season, in a situation like this, if someone gives me a reason to wear a helmet, I'm going to be wearing the helmet. I'll be 100%. I'll be sleeping in it. Oh, I would literally never. I would glue it to my brain. Never taking that puppy out. Yep, no way. Would learn to just live with it on all the time. Yep. All right. My next note, because we are a wine podcast, is the wine holder at that very fancy dinner. Yes. It was like a metal, almost like a basket, but the wine bottle was just like kind of laid in it. It had little handles, and they would just like gently pour the wine into everybody's glass. And as someone who spilled the crap out of a decent amount of wine in the first half of the show tonight, the bottle, I would have loved to have something like that, to have much more control over pouring it. Yeah, the control was excellent. It was very elegant without being like over the top and crazy. That I don't know if we can like find a picture and put it on like Instagram stories or something. Note to future self, put those on Instagram stories. But it was very interesting. Just something I'd never seen before. We've seen lots of fancy wine contraptions in our time, but that was something I had never seen before. I was like, man, the genius that thought of that, this little basket that is laid at an angle where the wine's not going to spill, but you've got much easier control of pouring it. Genius. Okay, my next note, I wrote this last night, but then it just like, it went from like, yes, this is true, to like, oh my God, this is so true. And the part we watched tonight was that Patton seems to have gotten lost in the, like, I said war games, but this is different than the war games we talked about in Dirty Dozen last week, in like the game of war. Like he, like, I almost want to use the word psychopath. Like he was just this like delusional, like, and it almost gave me like, and I don't know too much about Hitler, but like you almost feel like Hitler was like lost in his own game of like, and forgot like what war really is. You're focused on winning. You don't really care what you are out of touch with what this is for a lot of people. And it was very disheartening to watch and like really gross. And and I have this note farther down that you said something about like he's a really good villain. And like if this was not based on real things where I knew the outcome and I knew XYZ, I would have thought this was like this is a really bad dude and we're supposed to be fighting, like cheering against him through this whole movie, because like his energy was just so like, it was so out of touch. Like how many people died because he was like, nope, we're going to press on. We're going to press on. And obviously the people around him are trying to impress that upon him, and he's like letting that go. But I was just like, no, thank you. Yeah. They definitely try to like smooth over that a little bit. I think the if this were remade, the British mentality and the way he kind of viewed him as like he is like out of control, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
he's pushing way
Out
too
of control,
far. He's not
100%.
taking orders. He's not a team player. Those kind of things that you kind of need in a situation like this. I think that would be more amplified in the risk. But for this, it was more like, oh, everyone's like, oh, he's a maverick, but he just goes through and like he saves the day. That I think that would be much more amplified nowadays.
But I, like you said, it did kind of redeem itself a little bit towards the end of like, we're not going to give you this posting, or we're just going to have you do this. And I was not expecting as much of that, especially like, and we don't know how factually how accurate a lot of this is, but I was like, oh wow, they really are giving him some repercussions for his actions here. And I was not expecting that, because I feel like a lot of those kinds of repercussions feel more novel today when people act out of step and are really insensitive to a lot of things, that I was not expecting to see much of that.
Yeah, one thing I'm hoping to dig in more is the like actual factual accounts that we may have, how it was viewed on like the home front, how it was viewed like politically like both from the president and from Eisenhower and like the other people there, and then just overall like how it was viewed from like the British German side and how that the effect that had on the actual armies too. Yeah,
I feel like everything I read is more of the like from the European view of like, oh, this Paris girl that like has to like starve because she has no, like you hear it from like more of the people that lived in Europe, like, or is what the like books and stuff that I read a lot about are that like, and I think that actually goes nicely into my next note is like of what a wildly different World War II perspective this felt like it was, is like he was hardly ever really in the field until the very end. He was staying in these like immaculate mansions and like sleeping in these very fancy 4-poster beds. He had another soldier there to help make sure if, oh, do you want some milk or like any, like someone always, and did Patton starve ever during the war? Did he have to eat like shitty rations? No.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, it's fine. Like these guys are such great soldiers. They're going to push through all the cold and everything and like, and give up all this because they're soldiers.
Yep. And it was interesting because it's not something that I've seen a lot of, but it obviously makes sense. But it was just also like super just off-putting and distasteful. And I had a quote for him too. I didn't actually write the whole quote down because I wrote it down too long after I heard it and I forgot most of it. But it's something about like, look at these men, no rest, no hot food. I love this. And I was just like, gross. Leads into the toxic masculinity, which it leads into like my final real big thought from this, which I didn't actually write down, but something I thought the whole time is like, if from back whenever history started, if women had been the ones given the power, there would have never been a war ever. There's no way women would murder each other like this.
Maybe.
To this extent, would we really be out there slashing throats, bombing people? I mean, there are bad women out there. Trust me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it goes, let's go both ways. I think it'd be different.
But I just do not see a world where it is on this level of like, I mean, just looking at the numbers that the Nazi guy was writing down on the thing towards the end, I just don't see it. And I could be very wrong. I'm not saying I'm all knowing, but I think there's such this like mentality of certain men, not all men, but like of what the game of like they get, that war is a game, and they, like we've talked about already, like they lose touch with what the real, like what's the real cost there.
I see it less of man versus woman. I see it more as like the powers that be versus the people actually carrying out like and fighting that and doing that. I think that there's, once you kind of get in your head like, oh, I have to win this thing, whether you're male, female, anything, and you are in that power, you get so far removed from what's actually happening and the actual realities and impacts and everything that I think it just kind of, it corrupts, but it's also, you just kind of lose that perspective.
Yeah. It's definitely something that's really interesting.
And then it becomes around like a pride thing of like, I got to win this. And you're like, win what? Like, what are you going to be the king of? A bunch of scorched earth.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, why I'm so happy for this season. Obviously, I feel a lot of disgust after this movie for a lot of reasons, but that it's just like it's unlocked different stories. And I think, I mean, I don't know a ton about all the movies that we've picked for this season, but I think we've picked a pretty good range of like what this war encompasses. And I think we're going to come out of this with like not a 100% picture, because you would never ever get that, but like a really good, well-rounded story of World War II. And I am excited to keep watching more. So do you have any other thoughts, notes, last minute things? Nope. We will catch you all in a couple of days, probably at this rate. In our after show segment, you'll catch it in a couple of seconds. Yes. See you in a minute. Bye. Cheers. We are back.
First time slept on it.
Yes, we have slept and slept on this, and we are ready to talk about Patton.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we are back for our slept on it segment on Patton. And does your ratings change after sleeping on it? You rated it a 5.8 and I rated it a 6.2.
I don't suppose so. I mean, in doing my research, it looks like it's a very highly well-regarded rated movie. I don't really want to let that impact my rating of it. You know, I kind of enjoyed it. A little bit of quotability, a bit much to kind of rewatch, you know, overall. But so I think I'll stick with that.
I'm going to drop mine down to a 5.5. And as I said in last time's episode, even in the moment, I gave it a score and was like, I don't think I actually like it this much. Yeah. I think
I'm glad I watched it, but
yes, I was swayed by my love of World War II movies. I feel like they are very fascinating. I learned something every single time I watch one, and I was excited by that. But the actual Patton, super annoying. Didn't know I hated him, but I kind of do now. Even though he, did a lot of winning the war and stuff, but seems like pretty not nice person.
Yeah.
Which, maybe you have to be to win a war. I don't know. Not for me, but yeah. I don't really know that I want to watch it again.
Can we hop into the fact snacks on that note?
Yes. So with that, I will drop mine down to about a 5.5. You keep yours the same. And now we can jump into our fact snacks.
So on that note, kind of talking about himself, obviously movie about Patton, what I found interesting was that in the reception part of Wikipedia, when Ebert was talking about the movie, the portrayal of Patton by George C. Reilly, he said that in Patton, it is one of those sublime performances in which the personalities of the actor and the character are fulfilled in one another. So kind of saying that the actor basically was very much like that and kind of that temperament. However, what I also saw was that according to historian S.L.A. Marshall, Scott's gravelly and scratchy voice is the opposite of Patton's high-pitched, nasal, and somewhat squeaky voice, which now I cannot even imagine what that would be like.
Oh, no. Do we have to say, are there any clips of him talking, like real clips?
There have to be.
There have to be. Yeah. We're gonna need to do some digging on that. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. There has to be a recording because, not to go too far into mine.
You can keep going.
That entire speech at the beginning is like almost word for word a speech that he actually gave.
Yes.
They edited it slightly.
I heard that it was too vulgar to actually give the actual speech, so it was kind of pared down to be less aggressive, but that he gave that speech very frequently, and he never had notes, but it was very much something that he said.
So I figure in order to have that kind of transcribed, there must be some sort of audio recording somewhere.
Sure. All right, let's see. My first fact snack is that the film's senior military advisor hated General Patton, and I think that's a lot of why the movie sways more towards glorifying Bradley. He knew him and worked with him, and he knew Patton well enough to dislike him both personally and professionally. So I think that's kind of why they swayed the movie more towards him. And we'll never know how accurate it is and how
truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Yes, so. I mean that's almost always the case, and I feel like we talk about that a lot with a lot of these historical movies. But
it's also interesting with this one being made so shortly after. I mean, it's almost 30 years after the war.
This one came out in 70.
Okay. Relative to today though, and how much more we probably figured out from history and the further you get from it, maybe you learn some more, but you also get further from the people that actually knew the truth there. So
yeah, that's why I do kind of wish we for this season, I don't think we have enough earlier World War II movies, but there are so many World War II movies. It's really hard to narrow them down.
I think there were some that were made literally while the war was still going on, or a year or two later. They were really popping them out. But I guess that kind of makes sense. You think nowadays with movies like Zero Dark 30 coming out so shortly after Osama bin Laden was killed and those kind of things, that to me it always seems surprising. But then again, there's been so many years later, and I'm sure people will continue to make movies about World War II and whatnot today, obviously.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, you can go ahead with your next one.
Speaking of it being 1970, I was surprised looking through it that the screenwriter was Francis Ford Coppola, you might know from The Wines, but also is a famous screenwriter and movie maker. I believe he was screenwriter for, or wrote The Godfather, or at least directed it, maybe. Something we should probably know. But I was like, man, that's crazy. How old is he? He must be ancient. He was only 86 now, so it means he was 31 when he was the screenwriter for this.
Oh, man.
So pretty crazy for such a big movie.
Yeah.
Younger than we are.
A 30-year-old. Those scrappy young kids out there doing the work.
Right.
That's crazy. I know the name. Definitely know The Wine. Know that he does other things. but I was like, has he been dead for 30 years? Like, is he still like really young
86,
now?
I
Like
think.
I didn't have a real grasp on exactly who he was, but now I learned more. Thank you. And that's why we love fact snacks. All right. My next fact snack is George C. Scott, who played Patton, was pretty much like one of the last choices.
George C. Riley earlier. I had to change that. George C. Scott.
George C. Scott was almost the last choice for Patton. They had a bunch of other people who, even Ronald Reagan turned down the role. They had like 3 or 4 other people. Ronald Reagan, including Ronald Reagan, he turned it down. John Wayne really wanted it, but no one wanted to cast him in it. No more details on why they didn't want to cast him, but now I'm curious. And then they finally got George C. Scott, who was pretty reluctant to do it. They saw him do something else. And apparently he was a big alcoholic, and the director had to they got him to do the role in the first place, but he also had to spend a lot of time like wrangling him because he would go on these like big binge drinking things.
I can see that.
Yeah. And now I want to learn more about that too. Lots of digging. These snacks are light, but there's a lot more to it.
Well, he also, fun fact, reprised his role in the sequel.
Yes.
If you saw, there was a sequel there.
I did see that.
Which is crazy given that Patton died like soon after the events of this movie ended, like soon after the war, like in 1945, he was hit by a car.
That was going to be my next fact snack.
And died.
I read about the sequel, and then I was like, well, now I need to learn more about how Patton died, because it was like, well, he died in 1945. So, and I was like, what?
Right. And I feel like they don't mention that in the movie.
Right.
It said they did foreshadow it by something with like the runaway cart and like him almost getting hit by something, but I'm like, that's not enough of a foreshadowing. It could have been like,
unless you knew that was his fate.
Yeah, but it's so crazy that they wouldn't have like kept that in there in some way, considering it was basically like not long after the events of the movie, unless they thought it was just already too long.
I mean,
right? It kind of was,
but I was reading all about the history of like what happened after the war and like the actual facts. Most of my fact snacks tend to be actually like behind the scenes information about the making of the movie. But then I started going down the actual historical rabbit hole and learning about like how he was like pretty anti-Semitic and didn't want to take Nazis out of power. And I think he just had such a respect for the idea of war itself that he respected the Germans for being his opponent, even though he was obviously like killing them like crazy during the war. And then so he was like removed from power by Eisenhower because of a lot of things he was doing, refusing to pull the Nazis from power. And someone took him hunting to cheer his spirits up on December 9th, 1945. And the limo got hit by an army truck and he was paralyzed, and he was in the hospital for 12 days. And then there was some blood clot related to that was what killed him.
Crazy.
Like to go through everything that he's done. And apparently there was some quote too, I didn't write it down, but like when he was pulled from power, or like the war, when the Japanese part of the war ended, it was like he was like devastated the war was over, because he didn't know like he like wasn't gonna have a chance to fight again, and like that was just like what his heart and soul was being in war.
It was purpose there. Yeah, I have gone through all of that, and like that's what gets you.
Right. Some stray truck hitting your limo and paralyzing you. Yeah. Everyone else in the car was fine.
Crazy.
Yeah, wild story.
So my next fact snack is just that I found it interesting that his nickname was Bandito.
Doesn't fit at all.
Right. I don't know where to drop this fact snack in there. It was just kind of out of left field, but yeah, like on his Wikipedia page, his nicknames were Bandito and Old Blood and Guts. Like I can see
Old Blood and Guts for sure.
Bandito. I wonder if he just went around like speaking Spanish every now and then.
Back in the 40s, like good old Blood and Guts over here, out here killing everybody. Like I see that.
I wonder if Bandito just is because of the whole like Morocco thing. I don't know.
Who knows? That's wild. That doesn't fit him at all.
Exactly. And also going to do my last one was that Patton was first telecast by ABC as a 3+ hour color film only 2 years after its theatrical release, which was highly unusual at the time because movies usually had to wait at least 5 years for their first telecast.
So you'd see a movie in theaters and then you wouldn't see it again for 5 years?
Isn't that crazy? Like we think it's long when it's like, oh my gosh, there's like
we have to wait 3 months.
Couple months, yeah.
Oh
and
my
now
gosh.
It's got to the point where it's like some things are released like a couple weeks, or even like simultaneously released on streaming and in theaters.
That's insane.
Yeah.
5 years. That's a long time,
right? I feel like that's kind of why we do this podcast, is like learn those kind of things like that.
Yeah, just like about the film industry in general. Like that's so interesting. Crazy how times change. All right, I will wrap it up with one last fact snack, and that was that Patton's family, specifically his wife and his children, were very against the making of this movie. His wife was very adamant about it and about them not making it. And then she died in 1953, and they were like, the production company was like, all right, we're making the movie. But then his children were really against it. And because they were so against it, the army also backed them up and said, like, we don't want you to make this movie. You're not going to do it. So, I mean, they were trying to do it for 15 years plus. And eventually, I guess the kids agreed to support the film. But the funny part about that is that by the time the production actually started, the U.S. Army wasn't using the tanks, aircraft, or equipment that were used in the film anymore. But luckily for them, the Spanish army was still using them. So most of the movie was filmed in Spain with Spanish troops serving as part of the army because they were still using the same like style of aircraft.
Just help. They filmed a lot of it in like the Moroccan, Algeria, whatever area. I wonder if that kind of, if there was like a compromise there. I wonder if the original like draft of the script had him much more in a negative light. And in order to get any of the approval of the family, they had to kind of have some scenes and some spin to kind of make him look overall like a great victor. I also feel like it's really unrelated to his family not supporting it, that like how much more of these older movies were like actually shot on location places. I feel like nowadays, like most things are probably filmed in Hollywood. They have some other satellite places they will film. But like back then, like if you wanted something to look European, you flew to Dirty Dozen was filmed in Scotland or England or somewhere over there, and this was filmed in Spain. That I feel like it was probably much more of a like we can't make it look real unless you go there. Yeah, kind of thing. Still like California, where you can film a lot of things that look like a lot of places, but I think to get like the full European look, unless you want to actually build some of these villages or have a like a painted background to make it look like you're actually there, you're gonna. You could do it a lot more easily by actually going there. Whereas nowadays, I feel like they can easily stand up fake looking sets basically anywhere. Yep. Or green screen, CGI. Yeah, even easier than that. Again, we've progressed a lot over the last years. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for me. Do you have any other thoughts about this movie? No, it was long. I'm glad I saw it, but yes, not probably going to watch it again. It was definitely, I'm glad we had this season to fit it in, to have learned more. I think it will definitely also inform the movies going forward too. Like we'll know more about the war itself and the people involved in it. And I'm excited to jump back into another movie next time. Yep. So I guess thank you so much for watching today. And if you enjoyed this podcast, we would appreciate it if you could rate and review wherever you are listening, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube, if you could like this video and click subscribe, so that way you can be notified when we post our next episode. And we will be back next time with season 7, episode 3. See you there. Bye. Cheers.